Okay, so I was talking about Biden being the beast from the sea with 10 heads. Okay, so first we saw in January of 2024, Blinken met with 9 nations. Okay, so if you add the U.S. To those 9 nations, so there were 9 Arab nations, and all these nations are getting together to push Israel into a two-state solution. So if you add the 9 to the U.S., you get 10 nations. Okay, so that's another fulfillment, a potential fulfillment of the 10 heads. So we read about the beast from the sea in Revelation 13. It says, "And I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. And on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. It was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain." Okay, so like I said, 10 heads could stand for the 9 Arab nations plus the U.S. pushing Israel into a two-state solution. Or it could be the 10 nations that were fighting with the Houthi rebels under the U.S. Task Force 153 in the Red Sea. That was announced by Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, on 12/18/23, after having a press conference in Tel Aviv with Gallant and mentioning a two-state solution. Exactly 2 weeks later, Austin was admitted into the hospital for complications after prostate surgery. The only thing about these 10 nations, I'm not really sure how much of the original 10 actually stuck around to fight with the Houthi rebels. And then, like I said, the 10 heads could also connect to the BLM protesters from 2020 and the pro-Palestinian protesters from April of this year. Okay, so one of the things too is it talks about the beast having 7 blasphemous names. So what I'm realizing is that, so in the tabernacle, there's a table of showbread, and it has 2 piles of bread, so 6 loaves in each pile. Okay, so I think that connects to the 2 witnesses, and that's on the northern side of the Holy of Holies, or the holy place, because the ark's in the Holy of Holies, which represents the Messiah. And then we have the menorah in the holy place, which has 7 branches. Okay, and so I think that connects to Biden being the 7th king, and we read about the menorah being fully lit. And so I think when his 7 blasphemous names for Israel are fully fulfilled, then we have a fully lit menorah. Okay, I mean, because remember that things that the enemy can copy, the Messiah and the things of God, but the enemy does it in an evil way. So so I took a stab at trying to figure out the 7 times he said blasphemous things about Israel. Okay, so number 1, he said that Israel was doing indiscriminate bombing, and that was on 12/12/23, which is Kislev 29, which is 9/29 or 9/11 on the Hebrew calendar if you parse it out. So I don't have too much question about that one. Number 2, Biden saying that Israel's actions in Gaza are over the top. He said that on 2/8/24, which is Shavat 29, 11/29, which is 11/11 on the Hebrew calendar, if you parse it out that way. It's the same day that Biden had his document case where the special counsel said Biden was an elderly man with a poor memory. Kind of like he's not remembering what happened on October 7th, if you're saying that Israel's actions in Gaza are over the top. Okay, so on the third one I have is on February 23rd, 2024. The U.S. rejects settlements in Israel, and that happened on the Hidden Purim, Adar 1, or the first Adar 14. Already talked about settlements. Number 4, Biden's State of the Union on March 7th, he said, "This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed." So he's repeating Hamas propaganda about the numbers of Palestinians getting killed. The innocent, quote unquote, innocent civilians in Palestine is kind of a stretch. So that same day, too, he also said, "Come to Jesus moment" about Netanyahu on a hot mic after the State of the Union. And then also that day, Hamas left the quote-unquote peace negotiations in Cairo. So that's that. And then the fifth one that I came up with was on March 9th of 2024. Biden says Netanyahu is hurting Israel by not preventing more civilian deaths in Gaza and makes Rafah and then Biden makes Rafah a red line. So Israel's already working really hard to try to prevent as many civilian deaths. The problem is we're causing more Israeli deaths by prolonging this war, and trying to fight it. Just so nitpicky. And then the sixth one that I have is on May 10th of this year. U.S. says that Israel's use of U.S. arms likely violated international law, so that's probably a lie. And the seventh one I had was May 31st. When Israel was observing the Sabbath, Biden claims that Israel submitted a 3-part peace proposal, which, Israel said wasn't true, and says that Hamas is no longer capable of doing another October 7th. So, which is so not true. Okay, they still have plenty of power. And, so what that is going to do is make Netanyahu look bad that he wants to keep fighting this war. Okay. And then, just today on the news too, I heard that Biden had said in an interview that Netanyahu might be prolonging the war for political reasons, which is like totally ridiculous, because the only reason why the war is being prolonged is that Biden won't let him go in there and do what they need to do. He postponed them. Biden postponed Israel going into Rafah because he wanted to see a clear outline of how they were going to protect the civilians. So Biden was demanding a lot of things from Israel, which postponed them going into Rafah, and then at some point they just gave up and went in. So, and then G7 could also be connected to the 7 heads, another fulfillment, 7 nations that do not stand with Israel. So what I believe about these 7 blasphemous names is that, so what we have is like the protesters believing these lies about Israel. And so they're getting, and so what they have is Biden feeding their false beliefs about Israel. So it makes them want to get out and protest against Israel when they've been lied to. Okay. Let's see. And so then another thing I got with Biden too, like there's so many, and so I don't know what would be the final 7 or whatever. Like maybe 7 connects to categories too, I'm not sure. So then also too, on April 27, Biden said, they asked him, "Do you condemn the anti-Semitic protesters?" And Biden was asked, and he said, "I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I have set up a program to deal with that," Biden said. "I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians." So see, he's sitting on both sides of the fence or whatever. I don't know how you could do that, but he is. And then, so this lady, Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief of the Federalist, wrote, "President Biden says there are good people on both sides of October 7th. So remember that they gave Trump a really hard time for saying there's good people on both sides. I think that was in Charlottesville. and so now we have Biden like wanting to be friends with both sides, both Israel and Hamas. And then I wrote along the side, I have some other things too that Biden did, that I just think that God is bringing or brought judgment to him for. Like, so on 7/14, he signed a paper with Lapid, that talked about the two-state solution. And what was significant about that is 7 years after Obama's Iran deal, exact date. Okay, so then on 10/27 was when Israel made their maritime agreement with Lebanon, and that was, that came out of the Biden administration. And so that was giving away Israel's sea land. So definitely, there's going to be judgment on Biden for that. That's why he's the sea creature, because he gave the sea beast, because he gave away Israel's sea land. And then on 8/9 was the Saudi deal. That was 1290 days after the deal of the century. So, that could be, the thing that causes abomination. I mean, it actually did, because it was kind of what caused the start of the war in Israel, the attack from Hamas on October 7th. And then 3/22, and then also on the 25th in March was the UN resolutions trying to force a ceasefire in Gaza. It was, so one of them happened the day before Purim, and the other one was on Shushan Purim. And then I have this chart, which his 9/11 connections. His birthday on the Hebrew calendar is on 9/11. He was declared the winner 9 months, 11 days after the deal of the century on 11/7/2020. On 9/11/2023, he makes a hostage deal with Iran, releases $6 billion back to Iran. On 11/9/2023, Israel agrees to America's demands for 4-hour pauses in the fighting on the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, November 9th, 2023, 11/9, or, that's connected to 9/11. On 11/24/2023, the Biden administration is part of orchestrating a ceasefire to get hostages returned. I called that the covenant with many. It was announced 11/21. It was voted in 11/22. It started on 11/24, which is Kislev 11, which is 9/11, which is Biden's birthday on the Hebrew calendar, and it was Black Friday. And maybe day 49 of the war. On 12/12/2023, Biden accused Israel of doing indiscriminate bombing on 12/12/23, which was Kislev 29, which is, I told you the 29s could be a type of the 11, so that was 9/29 or 9/11. On 2/8/24, Biden said that Israel's actions in Gaza are over the top, which is Shabbat 29, 11/29, or 11/11. Okay. So what does this show us? So those from the people. Okay, so we see in Revelation 11:9, it says, those from the people and tribes and tongues and nations will look at their dead bodies for 3.5 days and not permit their dead bodies to be laid in the tomb. So I think that the 3.5 days could connect to the 3.5 years of Biden. The two, these are the dead bodies of the two witnesses. I mean, we definitely saw them around during the time of Biden, both Trump and Netanyahu. And then Revelation 11:10, and so it goes on to say, and those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them and celebrate, and they will send gifts to one another, because these two prophets tormented those who dwell on the earth. So they, so people on the left definitely celebrated when Trump and Netanyahu lost power, and then they sent gifts to one another. Biden spent America's money with his left, agenda. And then it says, after the 3.5 days, the breath of life from God came into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon those who were watching them. So we're going to see Trump and Netanyahu resurrected. I mean, Netanyahu's already kind of back in power, or is back in power, but we're going to see Trump return. And so it's interesting, it says they stood on their feet, so that connects to the feet of Daniel's statue. And then what's interesting, where it talks about, there's kind of been a double fulfillment where it's like their dead bodies, Trump and Netanyahu were kind of sort of killed on May 30th. Trump got convicted, and Netanyahu, Benny Gantz, said he, submitted for new elections in Israel. And then it talks about, those people on earth will celebrate. So we definitely saw people celebrating Trump's conviction or being found guilty. Okay, and then it says, and they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." Then they went up to heaven, into heaven in the cloud, and their enemies watched them. Okay, so sometimes I think the cloud could be a picture of the deluding influence on Trump followers. Okay, and then the loud voice of heaven could be Trump saying, "Come up here." And it's interesting that this is verse 12, because that's 6:6. So Revelation 11:12. And maybe if something happens on June 12th, then that would definitely be really significant. And maybe we'll hear Trump on June 12th say, "Come up here," unless something happens tomorrow. So not really sure. Then they went up into heaven in the cloud, and their enemies watched them. And in that hour there was a great earthquake. So, so that could be, the earthquake could be a picture of the Civil War in America. And a tenth of the city fell. So the 10 connects to the 10 horns, that fall and, become like Trump's soldiers. But then the soldiers on Biden's side, the protesters on Biden's side, would also fall. And definitely fall in the Civil War. And then 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake. So that 7 number connects to Biden. So that's who's going to get killed in the Civil War, is Biden's people. And the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. Because I think the Messiah then goes after Trump and his followers. So don't go either left or right. Okay. So because they're criminals on both sides. Both the left and the right are criminals. Okay. So you shall observe to do just as the Lord your God commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right or the left. Okay, we want to be following God's word, not the political beliefs from the left or the right. And so remember, when Jesus was on the cross, there were 2 thieves crucified, and one on the right and one on the left. Okay, 2 criminals. Okay, criminals on both sides of Jesus. Like, one example is both Biden and Trump are guilty of not protecting Americans' classified documents. And the problem that we're running into in our day and age is that everybody right now is comparing, like, they'll compare Trump to Biden or Biden to Trump, and and try to make their guy look good, but you're comparing a criminal to a criminal. And so it's like, well, try comparing Biden and Trump to Jesus and see how well they come out. Okay, so we have the picture of the burning bush. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. So Jesus is in the middle, and he's going to be in the middle during the Civil War, and we're going to be protected. We're going to be like, we're going to be like the Daniel's friends in the fiery furnace, that they don't get any fire on them. Okay, we're not going to be affected by the Civil War. We're going to be in the middle, protected with Jesus. This slide says, so we're going to be on the dry land with Messiah. We're not going to be part of the Sea of Biden or the Sea of Trump. And Revelation 16 says the great city was split into 3 parts. So the 3 parts are, the Biden followers, the Trump followers, and then the Messiah followers. Okay. Then it says, the cities of the nations fell. Babylon the Great was remembered before God to give her the cup of the wine of his fierce wrath. So this is all talking about, I mean, so I believe Babylon connects to Biden, but also connects to Trump, um, too. Um, because, you have the selling things in Babylon that definitely connects to Trump and his followers. Um, anyways, but so a lot of what I talk about is kind of what's going to happen to America, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen to Israel. I mean, right now they're talking about they might go to war with Hezbollah. I don't know if Israel ends up getting killed right before the Messiah comes, or if what we see right now is what we're going to get. I don't know how worse it's going to get before the Messiah comes. So we just got to wait and see. But it's possible Israel could be, Lazarus could be a picture of Israel where they get killed. Lazarus got or died, and then Jesus came and resurrected. So it could be true about Israel, but I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so that's my video that I have for you this today, Passover Connections and the second Passover, which would end tomorrow. And so we'll see if anything significant happens. And so then I'm not really sure. So then maybe we move out of the Easter Passover kind of season into the Shavuot season. Which, like I said, has a lot of connections. So we'll have to see how that all works out. And so I'll talk about that maybe, the Lord willing, in another video, or maybe not. We'll just see what happens. So thank you so much for tuning in. So hang in there. I know times are really hard right now. God's got us all, under slavery, and so our lives are just, it's like walking through mud right now. So times are hard, but keep in mind that God is going to set his people free, from slavery. So it might look bad and dark and dreary, but joy comes in the morning. So hang in there. God bless. Take care.